God, there's so many new drugs that are just popping up all the time. Different derivatives of LSD, things you can right now, apparently you can order sheets of this stuff that is like LSD, but it's in the gray area. It's still kind of legal. It's like a different version of LSD, but we don't know yet the effects it's going to have because it's not like anyone's really testing it outside.
Don't say the name because Jeff Sessions is listening. He's got one hand on his earmouth, the other hand's writing things down.
I got another drug. You got to get rid of it.
That's a dick. His little southern dick.
That'd be scary if Jeff Sessions had a giant dick, though. What a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I think
I was talking to a woman who had sex with a little person, and she said he had a normal-sized dick.
They have big heads.
So Jeff Sessions with a normal-sized dick would be interesting proportionally.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just scary to think about, that Jeff Sessions having some kind of because he's such a he's just such the quintessential pig, and it's you want the quintessential pig to have some kind of to be almost like a eunuch or something, but it's terrifying to imagine that Jeff Sessions, when he takes his clothes off, probably has 6 nipples, just running right down the middle of his fucking chest, glistening.
Puppies
They ooze. He gets wet when he's arresting people. They ooze a little milky trail.
Little goat knobs that he has to file down at night.
Yeah, little goat knobs. He's got hoofs.
He
visits private prisons. He visits private prisons and just pulls out his massive throbbing cock in front of people who've been sentenced there for life. Look at it.
He squirts right on that screen that you put your hand on.
Mr. Sessions, I was standing up for you. I just want you to know that.
He's going after medical marijuana again. He's trying to. It's almost like he can't help himself. He knows what the laws are, and it's almost but I just want to grab him. Let me just grab him.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just grab him.
I know what science says, but I've got my personal opinions on the thing, and that's what matters.
Yeah, just anytime there's one person as authority over another person and they've lived an entire life in that position, that's their ecosystem. Their ecosystem is they have authority, they enforce laws, they lock people up, and it's the game.
Right.
It's the game they play. And
Drugs
to be successful, not just that, it's there's an objective. It's literally almost like a Monopoly game. You see what the thing is to arrest people. You're the guy who arrests people. You arrest people and convict people. That's your game. That's what you do.
You're plugged into the machine.
Yeah.
Do you know an interesting thing about Monopoly? It was invented by an anarchist who invented it to teach kids the evils of capitalism.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
kind
incredible.
of how goofy anarchists are.
Yeah.
They did the exact opposite thing. It's like what they do today.
It wasn't supposed to be fun. It was supposed to demonstrate that when you accumulate capital, you end up taking it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you think anarchists are?
Well, I think that anarchists are people who want to diminish this system that we have far less rules, have far less government, right? And usually they're kind of spastic. And the way they express themselves is always very awkward.
Those are libertarians.
That too.
But I've just been reading this book, Anarcho-Syndicalism. It's this. Goddamn, it's really interesting to look at the history of anarchism, what it comes from versus what it gets interpreted. Because I remember when I was in high school. Or do you remember drawing the fucking anarchy symbol and you'd be it means you just go, wow,
fight the power, man.
You didn't even know what it meant. You're just assuming, but I think one part of it that's really beautiful is the idea that we don't need withered old prunes like Jeff Sessions telling us what we can put in our bodies. We don't need that.
It's true.
And that how many Jeff Sessions are there in the power structure? And then where it gets really fucking cool, man, check out David Graeber. You should have him on the podcast. My God, he's fucking brilliant.
What's he do?
He's an author. And he, a philosopher, I guess you could say. But he is incredible. And he wrote a book called, I think it's called The Utopia of Rules, that I've been reading, which is pretty fucking badass. And it's just sort of breaking down the bureaucracy that we're in right now. Bureaucracy, all the fucking forms you got to fill out to do just about anything these days.
Right.
All these fucking forms. It's insanity, right?
Right.
But then where it gets really interesting is he's right now, so in communist states, the corporations and the state are kind of the same thing. So there's these like Ministry of Labor. The stores are all national stores, you know? And so we think that that's not what's happening right now. But actually, because the people who are running a lot of the corporations used to be in government, and the people who are in government used to be running these big corporations, one of the cool points he makes, and also because the government is making the rules that the corporations are working by, but the corporations are putting their own agents into the state, he's saying that actually the line between the state and private companies is really blurry right now. They're kind of merging together, but we like to pretend that they're separate. For example, what's happening right now with the fucking FCC trying to take away the internet, with Verizon having one of their fucking pig drones in a super position of power right now is trying to take away the freedom of the internet. The state can be like, the corporations can blame it on the state. It's
well, just clarify what you mean by that, because they're not trying to take away the freedom of the internet. They're trying to get rid of net neutrality.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what it just mean is that you will have to probably pay more to access things that require more bandwidth, and it's going to be what it is now, where every website has open access to it.
It sucks.
And you get two versions, right? You get the capitalist version, I think it's a good idea, and then you get the tech version, which thinks it's a terrible idea. I almost always go towards the tech version.
Have to.
Yeah.
But that's the anaconda. You know, the way an anaconda kills somebody, every time you exhale, it squeezes in a little bit. That's all. Like right now, it's the squeeze in is, okay, this fucking internet, it sucks if you're somebody like Jeff Sessions.
That's not where the money's coming from. I think you're misinterpreting the whole idea. It's all just a business thing. It's like being able to throttle the data and being able to decide, like if Netflix wants you on their, if you want to have Netflix on the network, they want to be able to work out some sort of a deal. They don't want to treat Netflix like it's any other sort of streaming service. Like you're looking at there's business transactions. They're looking at it in a business sense. They're not saying the internet sucks. No one is trying to like squeeze the internet and stop it. What they're trying to do is make more money.
Well, okay, great. They're trying to make more.
Saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying, but I think it's a slippery slope, and it's the idea of the internet being treated like, I don't know, water. The internet being treated like just a thing that no corporation should have any kind of say. And that to me, it has to stay like that, because the moment some corporation, whoever it may be, gets to start deciding, yeah, you guys need to pay a little bit more.
Right.
And if we establish that corporations and the state aren't as separate as we like to think, then suddenly there's all kinds of back channels. There becomes a new way to begin to filter out content. And you could say it's for money. You start building financial walls around things, or you start making things vanish into the background because they aren't in some big conglomerate that's paying off the corporations more or whatever. You just mess up the whole thing, which as far as I can tell, it's doing great. The internet's great. This fucking compound you're in right now, you know, a lot of it came from the internet. This thing we're doing right now, it's the way the internet's been working.
Oh, dude, no one's a bigger proponent of the internet than I am. I just think when we're talking about these issues, you got to be really like objective, precise about what's trying to happen here. They're not trying to silence dissent. They're just trying to make as much money as possible. I mean, this is a weird, tricky time when it comes to information. We do have to be very careful, because it could wind up being like, hey, you get your internet from Comcast. Well, Comcast does no longer allow, you know, blah, 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 the Laugh app that has your podcast featured on it. Or, you know, some new streaming service that's yet to be discovered that will be in the future challenging YouTube. So YouTube gets together with Google, you know, they're owned by Google, and they get together with Verizon, and they make it exclusive for the Verizon network. If you want to get on YouTube, you have to be on the Verizon network.
Sure.
I mean, this is all inside the realm of possibility.
At the deeper level, though, anybody who thinks that government has not been totally captured by corporations isn't paying attention. I mean, that's not news in this country. I mean, you come from Europe, and this is one of the problems I have with anarchists and libertarians. I think they're very naive about what the world would look like if there were no government regulations.
Yeah, I agree.
Every river would be too poisoned to swim in. You know, the air would be fucking, because corporations, it makes sense for them to dump their shit as near to the factory as possible. Yeah. They don't give a fuck about birth defects and dead people. It doesn't matter.
That's true, but a lot of good things come from a lot of anarchist theorists And some of those things.
Well, I think a lot of it relates back to my shit with the hunter-gatherers, because hunter-gatherers are essentially anarchists, functioning anarchists.
Oh, yeah,
The
right.
problem is when you scale up and you've got corporations that, I've talked about this on this podcast before, with my belief that corporations are living things, institutions are living things,
Yeah.
and their agendas conflict with ours.
like superorganisms or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's spooky.
I think that every time you get large groups of people together and they operate under one window or one umbrella, rather, they just tend to act like an organism. Just what countries do. I mean, it's a natural thing that human beings do for some strange reason.
Not only human beings, right? Think about flocks of birds and schools
Ants.
of fish and, anthills. And
Sure.
There are all sorts of examples. And then you go the other direction, our microbiome. That's all functioning according to its own systems, and that's happening within us.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of scalable stuff going on.
I think you'd be insane to not think there needs to be some kind of structure to help things function smoothly. But I think we all agree we don't need as much structure as we've got right now. And
the problem is, sorry to interrupt you, go ahead.
Just to finish the point, I think what happens is a lot of people get in their heads and they start thinking that the state is responsible in some way or another for their well-being. And that's what happens is you start forgetting that what's really important is communities. What's really important is finding a group of people that you love and deciding in this group of people loosely. It's not a commune. It's not like a cult. But just deciding with a group of people that you love, making this really intense decision, which is none of us are ever going to be homeless. You could start there. That used to be what the family was, but a lot of people don't have that anymore. So groups of people agreeing very loosely to take care of each other in a way that the state is currently functioning with welfare and all that shit. That's, to me, is like, it's not anarchy, but it's a sense of like shrugging off the idea that the state is really going to take care of you.
But what if the state is an expression of that sense of community, as it is in a country like Denmark, for example?
Sure.
Where Danish people and Dutch people and Swedish people and lots of Northern European countries said, we're not going to let anyone be homeless and suffering. We're not going to let any children be malnourished in this country. We're going to take care of each other.
It depends on how. If there was a pure expression, if the people were unified enough to create a pure expression of what their like central goals were, that would be pretty startling to me. But
we pay lip service to it in America all the time. Thanks for your service, and we're all in this together. We're all Americans. Around the flag. Yeah. That's what we're doing. We're trying to create this sense of community. We're all in it together. But when it comes to actually taking care of each other, then we don't do it.
Well, I mean.
Back up. You're not in my thoughts at all.